Hello, my name is Allison Brooks, and I'm with the Thurston County League of Women Voters. Thank you for joining us today for the Primary Election Candidate Forum for Senate Legislative District 2. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation of citizens in our government. The League is open to anyone, both men and women, so I encourage you to join us. Our candidates today will have 2 minutes each for opening statements, and then they will have 1 minute each for closing statements, and we will be asking 6 questions. So with that, I would very much like to welcome Senator Randy Becker. I would like to welcome Bruce Lashy, and our other candidate, James Vaughn, could not be here with us today. So with that, Senator, would you like to open with 2 minutes?
Thank you very much. I would. I'm Randy Becker, and currently I represent the 2nd District. Our district, of course, includes a lot of Lacey, Olympia, Thurston County includes Rainier, Yelm, Pierce County would include Graham, Eatonville, Spanaway, Ording, etc. And we are lucky enough to have Mount Rainier in our district. I'm running for re-election this year. I was elected in 2008 and have served since 2009. And I'd really like to have an opportunity to continue to represent the people of my 2nd District. We have an amazing array of people representing all walks of life in our district. And it's absolutely amazing to hear the ideas and the thoughts that the people have. I am very, very adamant in my running for re-election that I want to run my campaign being an honest and a straightforward person. I want my campaign to be run on the things that I want to do, not on slamming my opponent or opponents. I really feel that we've talked about reforms before revenue. I would like to continue with that process, looking at every avenue that's available that we can save money and work within the state budget the same as we do in our home budgets. And with that said, last year we were able to accomplish a lot. I think the people of the district and the state of Washington would like us to accomplish a lot more in that way. I definitely believe that we have to make sure that we protect the people of the state of Washington, the vulnerable. We have to make sure that we keep in place our safety nets and that we continue to educate and improve upon our educational system at this point in time. So with that said, again, I would love to have an opportunity to continue to represent the people in the 2nd District. Thank you.
And thank you. Bruce, you're next.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Lashley. I am running for State Senate in the 2nd Legislative District. As a biography, I was born in Seattle. I graduated from University of Washington in 1980. Was commissioned in the Marine Corps. Spent 6.5 years flying A-6 intruders, 2 tours overseas as part of Operation Eastern Wind in Somalia in '83. Went on to have a very nice career flying for Delta Airlines. Was a captain for Delta Airlines, and presently I have a commercial cranberry farm. We grow cranberries for Ocean Spray. During that time, I've sat on the local school board. I have been a planning commissioner for Pierce County, sat on Department of Ecology subcommittees for hazardous waste cleanup, on the Northwest Track Advisory Council, and presently as a trustee at Clover Park Technical College. We have many challenges in this state, challenges that need to be addressed, and we have some very hard decisions to be made. Many budgetary decisions. I'd like to take some of the honing that I have had through the last many decades working on public issues to Olympia to work on those budgets and to work on especially education. I have been an international volunteer in education. 2 years ago, I spent a month living with the Maasai tribe in East Africa working on curriculum issues. And last year I spent 2 months working with the Vitana Foundation in the Philippines working on the education of educational financing for individuals, students who want to go to college. So obviously the background of education in this state I find very important, and we want to look forward, or I look forward, to going to Olympia to work on those education issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, first question. And Senator, we'll start with you, and you'll have 2 minutes, and you'll then have 1 minute to respond. So first question, Washington State could be facing another $1 billion plus revenue shortfall next biennium. Are you willing to raise revenue? If yes, please explain how. If not, will you be advocating cuts to social services, education, or corrections?
Oh, thank you for the question. I think it's been a question that's been asked over and over again, and every day you look at that and you have to weigh the pros and cons of everything that you think about that particular process. I am not one that wants to look at raising revenue or revenue equals taxes, taxes equals more money out of the taxpayers' pockets. I think what we did this last year in the Senate and in what we have done in the reforms, i.e. Creating a 4-year balanced budget, looking at the pension systems, looking at the insurance systems, and looking towards those types of things where we can actually make some cuts. I am very proud, and I would continue to feel this way, that we would not want to cut the programs for the most vulnerable, not want to cut the programs, the money for education, and that we would not want to cut the safety net programs. With that said, if we get, and we've turned over every rock and we have looked at everything as we would in every daily business or you would in your daily lives, look at everything that we've done and we still have a deficit and a shortfall, then I think that you have to, but only then, look at the potential of raising revenue or taxes. I think it would be specific to programs and set with sunsets and have parameters around them though, and that's the way I would look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I think there are some avenues, especially in the costing side, that we have not looked at. We look at the exemptions. We have $10 billion worth of exemptions over a 2-year period. Many of those exemptions, the Joint Legislative Audit Review Committee has looked at. It's a bipartisan committee. We have no implementation procedure for those exemptions, however. So we're talking about tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of potential revenue that without some type of implementation statute, we can't access. So that would be the first place I would go. And I would actually say that any JLARC legislation that may go to implementation should probably go to higher ed and K through 12.
Thank you. And Bruce, you will get the next question and you'll have 2 minutes. Funding for public higher education has decreased by 50% since 2008. Tuition at the University of Washington increased 20% last year, by double digits again in 2012, and at Washington State by 18% in 2012. In your view, where should we go from here and how?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, as a trustee at Clover Park Technical College, this is something that I know firsthand. We have had to cut $6.5 million. We have laid off 50 FTEs and closed 12 programs. We are doing the best we can for as little money as we have. But frankly, if our charge is to educate the public, train the public, so that they can go out there and they can get those jobs and they can start new businesses and increase the economic vitality of our entire society, we aren't doing what we can do. And frankly, it's because the dollars aren't there. And you can only cut so much before you start cutting well past the meat and well past the fat and you're into the bone and the marrow. So the challenge down in Olympia is going to be one of deciding how far do we want to go? Are we done cutting? Or are we going to look for other revenue sources? And again, first place I would look are the exemptions, the $10 billion in exemptions that frankly are not treated like expenditures. I would look at implementing some type of JLARC legislation that would allow this funding to go to higher ed.
Thank you. And Senator? I can repeat the question. Funding for public higher education has decreased by 50% since 2009. Tuition at the University of Washington increased 20% last year, by double digits again in 2012, and at Washington State by 16% in 2012. In your view, where should we go from here and how?
Thank you. I just wanted it repeated, so I made sure that I was answering the way I wanted to. I serve on the Higher Education Committee, And I've been on that committee now for 4 years, and ultimately it's my favorite committee that I'm on. But anytime that you're looking at the budget that we faced and the recession that we faced in the state of Washington, we didn't really see a decrease in our revenue. It was more flatlined, but we did see an increase in spending in other programs that actually was, in my first 2 years, was a 33% increase. So what we have to do and continue to do is look for every avenue that to make sure that the other programs don't take away from our children's education. There's a K-12 and remedial classes, 50% of our students having to take that, adds to the cost of an education. We need to work in the K-12 system to make sure that we eliminate the need for the remedial classes in the community colleges. But in higher ed, tuition, I voted against the tuition increase bill. I did not complete my college education. I ran out of money. I didn't realize how expensive books and the other fees would be. And so for me, I'm passionate that students actually have an opportunity, regardless of your income level, whether you're low income, middle income, or high income levels, that you have that opportunity to achieve that college education.
Thank you. Senator, next question. All-day kindergarten failed to pass the legislature in the last session. Would you vote for all-day kindergarten in the next session, and why or why not?
Well, you have to take a look at all-day kindergarten. Right now in our school districts, it's being offered if someone can afford to pay for that other half day. Some of the schools are able to give some of the students I'm sorry, I'm fumbling here, but some of the students are getting the full day, some are not. And it's based upon whether people can afford to pay for that or not. So it depends upon, it's hard to say, would I vote for all-day kindergarten or would I not, when you have to look at all the details of the bill. You have to know what's in there, what commitments. Is it an unfunded mandate? Is it a funded mandate? Are these going to put the schools at a higher risk of not being able to complete with some of the other programs that they have? Or will it give the schools the ability to actually do what they intend to do with this program? I believe in all-day kindergarten.
Thank you. Bruce, you have a minute to respond.
Yes, all-day kindergarten I would certainly fund. I think we have to get beyond actually thinking about just funding different aspects of education and start to understand that education is PK through college or through training or through technical college. One of the things we have done incorrectly in this state is we have segmented those things, and then we fight for dollars according to that. And frankly, higher ed, two-year institutions have become a piggy bank for other programs, and that's unfortunate. And we frankly can't go down that road anymore.
Thank you. And Bruce, you get the next question. You'll have 2 minutes. We know our transportation needs are seriously underfunded without adequate revenue to maintain our highways or ferry system. What would you do to ensure adequate funding in order to provide a safe and reliable transportation system?
Sure. One of the first things we have to do is look at how we bond, because we bond for gas taxes, which frankly are decreasing in revenue. So we will have to find other means of which to bond. We're looking at fees and user fees. These are all acceptable, and they're acceptable ways to do it. We'll look at securitization of other funding sources. Infrastructure is probably one of the most important drivers of economic development. I think about the Cross-Base Highway, which has gone from a $50 million project to a $350 million project, and it's still not built. And I unfortunately think that before it gets done, it'll be over a $500 million project. I think about Yelm Bypass, which needs to be built. And I think about Ording Highway, two-lane country road that frankly needs to be built because it is an escape route for a lahar damage of Mount Rainier. We have to find the funding sources that not only are going to be there as one-time shots, but are going to be stable. And we also need to work with our congressional delegation to tap into the federal monies that may be available.
Thank you. Senator, you have a minute to respond.
Thank you. Well, I don't think that Bruce and I really disagree on a lot of that that Bruce just brought up. You know, when you're looking at the second district and you're looking at the problems that Bruce has pointed out, Ording Highway has had multiple deaths on that highway, and funding is there, but it's in the future, and it's only for portions of it, and it isn't something that is going to be completed quickly. We have JBLM, we have 167, and we have cross-base highways that are real important to the second district in that they'll help bring jobs and local jobs into our community. And so those things are critical for our district. And funding, tolling is a consideration. Electric cars are being charged fees at this point in time. Every avenue we have to look.
Thank you. Senator, you get the next question. In the next legislative session, do you see additional changes to public employee pay and benefits as necessary? What changes would you advocate and why?
Public employee payments, pay. You know, I think that when you're looking about the public employees, I'm assuming you're meaning state employees and labor unions and those that may not be. And the labor union portion of it is negotiated by the governor, and I know they're in the process of doing that. You know, I think that no matter what you look at for our future and what we're looking at as far as our budget, we're going to have to look at the budget in the entirety and then decide how we're going to pay and who's going to get what. With the labor unions, it's a little bit different because of the contracting element. But, you know, if you're the employee that is not a union member, more in the administration portion of it, I don't believe that we should be looking at cut. I believe that these employees are people just like you and me, and they're out there trying to do the best job they can. And they want to be recognized like any other employee with a pay increase. We're just going to have to look at what the budget will allow and then work within that budget.
Thank you. Bruce, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I think we need to get away from creating victims. Everyone is a victim of the unfortunate Great Recession, and any one particular group that we try and victimize just degrades us all. I don't believe we need to point out any one group to be the fall guy or the scapegoat. As far as public employees go, no, I would not seek concessions. I would not seek pay cuts. I've worked public budgets for 25 years. I see a way around this or a way out of this by rebalancing in-stream flows of revenue and by frankly going through the expenditures and costs. It's not a place I would go nor advocate.
Thank you. And we have our last question, and you will each have 1 minute. And Bruce, I will start with you. In the next session, how would you support the growth of jobs in Washington State?
Great question. Growth of jobs. A lot of the things that we have talked about are where jobs will be created. Education truly is the guiding tenet for our prosperity. If we are able to train people to do their jobs, train people to have an opportunity to seek new careers, to create new occupations and new jobs, they create that economic vitality. That is, and I won't go really any further than saying education is our guiding light and is the one thing that we need to key off of, and it will bring forth economic prosperity.
Thank you. Senator?
Well, from my perspective, it's multifaceted. I think to create jobs, you need to take a look at small businesses are a huge part of what drives our economy, both in Washington State and in the nation. And I believe the figure is around 96% of our jobs are small businesses. So what I've noticed while I've been in Olympia is the overregulation, the encumbrances that government has put upon the small businesses. I look at my neighbors in Eatonville and Graham and other places and where businesses have been are no longer. And talking to those people, why did you go out of business? It was simply because of the overregulations and of the B&O tax and other issues like that. So I think that's what I would prefer to look at, is deregulating some of the things that have gotten in the way of the people being able to create their jobs that thereby employ folks. But I also think that you have to take a look at the educational piece of it. 70% of our folks that were hired by Microsoft and Boeing and the high technology jobs, they should come from our system of education in Washington State. We're going to see a 70% increase in needs by 2016 for those particular jobs, and yet we're not meeting those educational opportunities here in Washington State and importing folks from other states and other countries. So I think that it's a combination thereof, and I think that it's something that we have to continue to work on and look at every opportunity that's available.
Thank you. And now you will each have 1 minute for a closing statement. And Bruce, you get to go first.
Well, I want to thank League of Women Voters for allowing us this time. Where I'd like to go with this election is, frankly, towards helping the economic vitality of the state. I'd like to do it through education. I would like to do it through examining the budget, find ways to rebalance in-stream flows of revenue. I'd like to look at ways to find expenditure costs, exemption costs, and frankly move forward with helping the state and everyone in the 2nd Legislative District.
Thank you.
I thank you very much for the opportunity as well to be here. This is a phenomenal event to attend. I would actually like to make sure in the campaign that we continue to address the needs of our students, both in the K-12 and the needs for possible reform in our educational system to make sure that our students get a higher education. I really want to make sure that we take a look at some of the things that we've done and some of the things that we can do. I again, do not want to raise revenues, taxes. I want to make sure that people have their ability to do what they want to on their property. I want to protect personal property rights. The Constitution of the United States and Washington is extremely important to me. And I do really like working on the budgets. My history has been in the medical field as a medical practice administrator working with a multi-million-dollar budget. I feel that's one of my strengths, and I would love an opportunity to continue to represent the people, the great, great people of the 2nd District.
Thank you. And that completes our forum. Thank you to our 2 candidates. Thank you to TCTV. And to our viewers, remember, we would love to have you join us at the League of Women Voters of Thurston County. And please remember, democracy is not a spectator sport, so vote on August 7th. Thank you for joining us.